Welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Well, it's great to be with you, Tom, and congratulations on your move to the West Coast.
Thank you. Oh, we're loving it out here. All our kids live here. My mother-in-law, brother-in-law. It's like I'm back with family, and which is real important to us. But let's talk about Puerto Rico. You have been doing some remarkable reporting over at Truthdig and other places on what's going on in Puerto Rico. Is it? I remember when Puerto Rico first happened, people were tweeting, okay, is this going to be is Naomi Klein's book going to be played out here? Is this going to be a great example of disaster capitalism? Seems like it's looking that way.
It's the quintessential. I mean, what's happened here is that the government, the Trump administration, has decided to not help these people, even though they're U.S. citizens. Of course, they do happen to be of color mostly and speak Spanish, but Puerto Rico has been a U.S. colony since 1898, and these people are American citizens, and Maria swept through there. Trump comes up and destroyed the place. I mean, really destroyed the place. This is the devastation in Puerto Rico is just almost unbelievable. Also in the Virgin Islands, which people seem to skip over, but they are also U.S. citizens. And the administration decided not to help these people, basically. I mean, there's a hospital ship down there. There's some FEMA people. There was a very corrupt contract given to rebuild the energy grid to a tiny two-person company in Whitefish, Montana, which happens to be the hometown of Ryan Zink, the Interior Secretary.
Yeah, and his son apparently worked there, too.
His son actually worked for the company. Yeah. The $300 million contract, they were paying four linemen to fix the lines on the power lines. They're flying people in at $1,000 a head, setting out $350 or thereabouts an hour, of which the workers actually only got a fraction. And meanwhile, the grid is at least still half down. This is 2 months, Tom. So this isn't like last week.
This would not be tolerated in the white suburbs of Houston. And in fact, it was not tolerated in the white suburbs of Houston. But in Puerto Rico, where, as you point out, Harvey, people speak Spanish and the majority of the population are what could be defined as people of color, Hispanic or black or both, Trump seems to be getting away with this.
Yes, people are actually starving. They're drinking contaminated water from Superfund sites. FEMA guys walk around, they hand out bottles, small bottles of water, and they give people a form to fill out, or an internet, a number to call. There's no phone service in over half the island. There's no internet, for God's sakes, virtually at all. The hospitals, there are more than 50 hospitals. A fraction of them are operating. The one thing good that happened was Elon Musk sent in solar panels, and they're running the children's hospital in San Juan on solar panels. And we have called for the grid to be rebuilt along solar lines. We want microgrids, solar panels, and wind farms. And in fact, there was one wind farm on the south side of the island that went right through the hurricane, as did, by the way, most of the windmills in Texas. So this is another proof of the need to get to Solartopia. And Congressman Ted Lieu of Southern California has sent a letter to FEMA asking them to use whatever money they're devoting to rebuilding the grid to do it in a decentralized solar way. We want to see Puerto Rico totally solarized, which is more than possible.
And it's actually, as of 2 weeks ago, and I think it was Joe Robb did a great piece on this over at Think Progress. As of a couple of weeks ago, solar and wind are both now officially cheaper than any fossil fuel or nuclear power, if you strip out all the subsidies from all of them.
Yes, exactly. And Germany now is getting more energy from wind and solar than from nuclear and fossil fuels.
Yeah,
and that's only the fourth largest economy in the world.
Right.
Now, but one thing we're looking at Puerto Rico, I mean, it's been so egregious, Tom, that you have to start thinking: are they deliberately cleansing the island of local people? At least 150,000 people have left Puerto Rico. They've gone to Florida mostly, but also elsewhere. Yeah. And the question is, will Trump's vulture capitalists sweep in and soon buy up the land for pennies on the dollar and turn it into Cuba before the revolution? big hotels. I'm sure some with Trump's names on them, gambling and prostitution.
Batista all over again.
It was.
Yeah, amazing.
And
Harvey, we've got about 3 minutes left here, and I wanted to get into another topic that you are noted internationally as an expert on, and that is our privatized, rigged voting system being hacked. And there is some concern among some people that the Alabama Senate election could be stolen. Tell me about this.
Well, they've already disenfranchised many, many, many thousands of black people, as has been done all over the country. Trump has set up a federal commission with Chris Kobach of the Secretary of State of Kansas, KKK there, to specifically for the disenfranchisement of people of color, and we know that's going on in Alabama. We're fighting now. We're trying to get the Democratic Party, which is brain dead, as you know, to pay attention to this and to see that we get a decent vote count. We're asking that Doug Jones not concede if he loses before there's a recount. There are electronic voting machines in there in Alabama which could be monitored. They do produce a valid image, but nobody seems to want to, which we could actually recount properly, but nobody seems to want to take this seriously. I think there's a very, very good, or you could say bad chance that this election will be stolen, which would be a horrifying outcome, given the nature of Roy Moore.
What are the principal techniques that the Republican Party is using? I mean, we saw this in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Indiana in the last election, where hundreds of thousands of people in Minnesota, mostly in Milwaukee, a largely black town, in Michigan, mostly Detroit, largely black town, in Flint, in Indianapolis, in Ohio, mostly minority communities, just were, literally hundreds of thousands, or correct me if I'm wrong, Harvey, you're the expert on this.
No, you're 100% right. It's strip and flip, Tom.
Yeah.
What happens is that they strip the voter rolls. They remove people, legitimately registered citizens, from the voter rolls. The people show up to vote, often decades in the same polling place in the same home, and they're given provisional ballots because of the so-called irregularities, and the provisional ballots go straight in the trash. And that is how Donald Trump became president. In Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, and North Carolina, the 5 states where Hillary Clinton won the exit polls, and but somehow lost in the Electoral College, and did not say a word, by the way. And so we think that this technique is going to be employed. We're pretty sure it's going to be employed in Alabama. The question is, will they strip out enough voters of color, and will they flip them that electronic votes? And
why do you think it is that the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party in general are perfectly willing to blame the Russians, but not to blame the Republicans for throwing hundreds of thousands of people off the voting rolls that would have made the difference in those states? Harvey, we've got about 20 seconds left.
The problem is they did the same thing to Bernie Sanders. And so the Democrats did to Bernie Sanders what Trump then did to Hillary Clinton.
You're talking about in California?
Yes.
And in Brooklyn?
New York, in Brooklyn. And especially, but other places as well. And I read every word of Hillary Clinton's excruciating book, and she never said a word about this. She attacks Joe Stein, but fails to point out that Joe Stein actually won a recount in Michigan, but they wouldn't do it because the Clinton campaign wouldn't sign on. And so the Democratic Party is really at fault here. We're trying to awake somebody in Alabama to this possibility. And Tom, I hope to God we do it, because this is a major election that can be very easily stolen.
Amen. Harvey Wasserman.